Well, I think the biggest problem we have is a lot of this optimism has been built into the market. The market is now trading the S&P at 22.5 times forward earnings, when the average over the last 10 years has been more in the 18 area. If you go even longer than that, it's in the 15 area. So we're up in the stratosphere. And so much of this hype has been built into the market already. So you have to be pretty careful as you begin a new year.
This is Will Rind at the NASDAQ here in New York City for the High Conviction podcast. We are celebrating the launch of the Granite Shares Yield Boost ETF family, TSYY. And I am here with Mr. Bill Gunderson. Now, what we start off with is thinking about, what a year this has been. All-time highs in the market, gold, Bitcoin, number of different things here. Maybe start by saying, what are some of the things that work for you this year?
Well, we called a bottom in the NASDAQ in January of 2023. And it's memorialized in Seeking Alpha. People can go look at that article and say, wow, Gunderson called the bottom in 2023. The NASDAQ got cleared down to a PE ratio in the 20s. The S&P got down into the 15, 16 area. We've been all in ever since. I think some of the big things that happened, I think when ChatGPT came out, Microsoft, that was kind of like the shot across the bow that now AI is available to the general public. And we were all in. I think we're up 500-600% on NVIDIA, which is quieted down quite a bit. And then a lot of the ancillary plays. I mean, Microsoft was right in the thick of all of this ChatGPT. I'll tell you what was another big winner for us, Arista Networks, okay? Now, while Morgan Stanley's of the world and other of these wirehouse firms still own Cisco, believe it or not, they still own Cisco. You've got a stock like Arista Networks, which has run circles around Cisco. But for whatever reason, it seems like Wall Street has this model. We're going to own Johnson & Johnson. We're going to own Pfizer. They're not going to own the weight loss drugs. I mean, they're not going to own Lilly. They're not going to own Novo Nordisk, which are going to be the biggest drugs of all time. So that's worked well for us, even though it's kind of cooled off here recently. What else has worked? Nuclear has worked very well. Vistra is one of our biggest winners this year. You're not going to power AI with the sun and the wind. It's just not going to work. And here, I'm a guy that drove home from college to see the No Nukes concert. This is when all the rock stars and all the hippies were against nuclear energy. It was after 3 Mile Island, right? It was back in the late 70s. And now they're all for it. You've got Microsoft making deals to start up 3 Mile Island again. So we made a lot of money in Vistra. We made a lot of money in Constellation Energy. And I think maybe there's some life to some of these smaller nuclear plays that are coming along. Instead of waiting for a big dome, which takes years to build, you've got SMR, you've got Oklo, and a few that are trying to go smaller, modular, portable even.
Yeah.
I don't want to pull one behind my station wagon, but I think there's some play in life there too.
Maybe this is at the risk of asking a stupid question, but what do you think is the sort of primary driver behind that? Are people focused on one part of the agenda here?
I think pro-business is a very big part of it. I think and I think bringing in all of these business people, I think the market does not like career politicians. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is, running the economy. And I think successful business people, the market looks to as, hey, you know what? There's opportunity here again. Look at who's come here since CEO one. You had, just yesterday, you had SoftBank, right? How much are they going to put in?
Yeah.
100 billion. But, it's just, I think that people are not afraid. I think they kind of became afraid to invest.
So that's a good segue to thinking about next year then. And clearly we've had a lot of things go right this year, new administration coming in. What's your general outlook for next year?
Well, I think the biggest problem we have is a lot of this optimism has been built into the market. The market is now trading the S&P at 22.5 times forward earnings, when the average over the last 10 years has been more in the 18 area. If you go even longer than that, it's in the 15 area. So we're up in the stratosphere. So I think the biggest issue we have right now is valuations on the market, on the overall market. And so much of this hype has been built into the market already. So you have to be pretty careful as you begin a new year.
And so with that, is there any way you're thinking about, how to diversify that risk, how to mitigate that risk, or is it more just long-term?
No, I'm a stock picker. I'm totally a stock picker. I think that's number one. I wouldn't own an index. I would definitely be a stock picker, okay? Why would I own the software sector? I love the Granite shares. I can single out some. I love Palantir. I think Palantir is becoming a monster in many ways, not only crypto, but artificial intelligence. Now it's in the NASDAQ 100. In a portfolio, my large cap growth has about 18 stocks. Palantir is one of the chosen ones right now. So you have to be a stock picker, number one. I think you have to watch your downside very closely. And something else that I've been doing for the last 20 years, I think I was way ahead of most guys in my industry. I use inverse funds from time to time to hedge. So I have a DXD, which is, it's not a Granite shares, but I have used yours too, as a hedge against the Dow. As the Dow kind of tires out and kind of rolls over, DXD is juiced 2 times inverse the Dow. And I think there's some, you have some inverse individual stocks that I think are going to come in you have to hedge against some of the gain. Instead of selling your NVIDIA right now for 800% gain and have the capital gains due in April, I would rather hedge against it, get it into the new year so I could put those capital gains off by a year or longer.
It's an interesting thought. And I'm going back to Palantir for a second. So Palantir is clearly one of the AI stocks of the moment. How do you think about AI? And do you think that, from a stock picking perspective, is it about we're in the early stages of this AI boom, or are you thinking about it more from specific parts of the AI value chain?
Early stages. Microsoft disclosed, I think today, how many of NVIDIA's chips. It's all you have to do too is look at the growth in NVIDIA's earnings. That's probably the most meteoric rise. I've been in the NASDAQ and stocks for the last 25 years. I've never seen 4 quarters put together like NVIDIA did. Unbelievable, where you have 200, 300% sales growth, earnings growth. So that tells me it's going to maintain 30, 40, 50% growth for several years into the future. I think it'll be a $5-6 trillion stock at some point in time. So no, I think it's in the early stages. I also like, in that area, I like Rigetti, which is, now we're getting into the quantum areas and I think the power that is needed for AI is, like I said before, is still a very viable play. I'd like to see you come up with maybe double Vistra or maybe even double short Vistra at some point in time. Okay, Vistra's done better than NVIDIA has this year.
Yeah. One of the stocks which has got a lot of attention clearly since the election is Tesla. Is that a stock that you own?
Yes.
And how are you thinking about Tesla from here on?
Well, I did not really like Tesla. In fact, I was on with you maybe, I don't know, several months ago.
Yep.
Tesla had all kinds of headwinds at that point in time. China is now producing way more electric cars. I think BYD is doing now, 4 million cars a year? Tesla's 1 million cars a year. And I think that the fervor to own an electric car, my wife and I own an all-electric car. It's all, in addition to standard cars. All you got to do is drive down to Disneyland from South Carolina and see how many charging stations are, and you have anxiety like you can't believe. So I think that the popularity of electric cars has gone down tremendously. Ford, GM, so it had a lot of headwinds. But Elon knows how to position himself in the right place at the right time. How could he be positioned any better to be at the table, the head table in Mar-a-Lago on a nightly basis? I think he's going to get a lot of favorability thrown his way. So, yeah, and I think too with Tesla, I mean, you're getting way more than Tesla. You're getting his AI initiatives. You're getting the robo-taxi, which is down to what, 3 now? It's down to Waymo and Google. It's down to Tesla, and it's down to Aurora Innovations, which purchased Uber's, trying to make their own car. And I do like Uber too. I think that's going to be a big theme for 2025. I think we're going to make the breakthrough. I came from the airport to here. It took longer to get to the airport from here than it took to get from Charleston to New York, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see any robo-taxis. Okay, not one. So I think that robo-taxis are probably going to be a big boost for Tesla and for Google. I think Google is a good one. Alphabet for next year.
So this is the High Conviction podcast. As you know, we always talk about high conviction investment ideas. So for next year, do you have a high conviction investment idea?
Well, I mean, I would put Palantir right up there. I started out with Palantir. I run an emerging growth portfolio, which is kind of my incubator, my single A baseball team. And then they move up to triple A. That's where Palantir was. I'm up 150% in Palantir. Now it's a $150 billion company. It's a mega cap. So I also bought it in my large cap. So I own it in 2 of my portfolios. I like Palantir because they're connected to the government. They're connected to cryptocurrency, and they're connected to AI. So I like Palantir a lot as a high conviction stock. I would say of all the large, fabulous 7, Palantir's not quite there yet, but I think it could be there. I still like Meta too. I think Meta still has a lot in the tank. The valuation's not too bad. I still own Microsoft. I think the government's going to limit the AI players. And of course, Microsoft's right in the center of it all with their connections to the one in San Francisco. I get OpenAI, Sam Altman. I think Microsoft is still a major player. And I think Google's a major player too next year with robotaxi and AI.
Right. Well, Bill, great to talk to you.
Okay.
For those of you that are not familiar, how can people find you? How can people learn more about your work?
Well, I do a national radio show every day called Best Stocks Now. And they can find me. I'm in 10 markets around America. And of course, it's a podcast also. And I also own my own registered investment advisory firm called Gunderson Capital Management. And we try to stay on top of those best stocks now.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
This is Will Rind for Granite Shares at the NASDAQ. And we are here today celebrating the launch of the Yield Boost ETF family from Granite Shares, the Yield Boost Tesla ETF, TSYY. We're talking with Bill Gunderson.